I'm out in nature again. So I'm up at that mountain reserve near where I grew up. So I apologise if there's any birds interrupting us this time as well, but they seem to be a little bit quieter up here. There's no cockies. It's usually the cockatoos that are a problem. But I just wanted to come up and talk with you today a little bit about, and it's kind of relevant to nature, but a little bit about differences in the way people think, depending on where they're from, depending on the systems that they grew up with, depending on the cultures that they that shaped the way they think and their perspective on the world. Now, as a teacher, there are common activities that you will bring up in class with students on a regular basis, and that is because you like to hone them, you like to develop them and create them to make them better, and to also gauge an understanding of people, how they think. And you can only do that when you repeat things sometimes. It's a form of experimentation. So there's a question I like to ask my students, a lot of my clients who I meet very early on. And this just gives me an idea of who they are and their value system. And that is a question about time travel. So first of all, I will pick up a scrap of paper, let's see, and I'll pretend I've got a ticket. Let's see, do I have a ticket here? I've got a ticket somewhere in here. Here we go. Well, I have a ticket here. Time travel. So this is a time travel ticket. It says here that you have one return trip to the past or to the future. So you can choose either, and you can go at any time in the future or in the past. It doesn't have to be inside your lifetime. It can be any time at all. Now, it's just a day trip or an afternoon trip. You'll go for 4 hours. You'll have a look around. You can observe some things. You can't change anything. You can't talk to anyone. All you can do is observe. Now, there is a big difference. That's something I've noticed over the years between, and I'm just going to go based on my experience, between Asian, predominantly East Asian, Southeast Asian students, and European students, and even some students from South America who have a little bit more of a European perspective on the world anyway. So, first of all, I give this option. Most European students, and even me myself, as an Australian, we have European perspectives on the world. And when I say European, it's probably shaped through Christian values. But we have a perspective, and most of my friends and family, they also love to travel. Usually it's either right back into the past, like the times where the pyramids existed. And if it's not into the past, it's into the future. It's way into the future, maybe 300 years into the future, 1,000 years into the future. Because they're places that we would love to see because we would love to understand them. And we're not going to get the opportunity to see them. So why not? If you've got a ticket for time travel, why would you not go to a place that you're never going to see? You're never going to know unless you had this magic ticket. So most Europeans, most Australians think that they would like to travel large distances in time, either in the past or the future. Most of the time it's actually the future. Now, people from Asia and the Middle East as well at times, but particularly I've had enough students from East Asia and Southeast Asia to really understand the way they think. Most of them would like to travel into the future. Vast majority, they say the future. Now, it's not far into the future. They only want to travel 10, 15, maybe 20 years maximum into the future. And when I ask them, I'm like, well, you're going to... My justification for not wanting to do that is that I'm going to see, hopefully, 20 years into the future anyway. Why would I waste this magic ticket, this time travel ticket, on seeing something that I'm already going to see? And so I ask them, I say, why would you travel so close to the present? And almost always it's like they want to know that the choices they are making now, they want to know how they're going to work out. If the decisions they're making now are the right choice or the wrong choice. They also want to see what their children are going to look like as they get older. They're going to see what they're going to look like as they get older. What is their life going to be like? Is it going to be a lot of them, some of them are going to be retired. They want to know where they're living, what they're doing. And of course, once you see the future and you come back, that's definitely going to change your, hypothetically speaking, of course, it's definitely going to change your decisions in the present. Now, I argue that that is going to affect the future, and you're not actually going to end up with that future that you saw when you traveled 15 or 20 years into the future, if you know what I mean. Now, this is the problem with thinking about time travel, is that it can get messy. Sometimes students from Asia and the Middle East, they would like to go back to their childhood and see themselves at school. Sometimes, occasionally, they would like to go back and see what their parents were like when they were young, or their grandparents. But the most important point here is that they want to travel within the realms of their lifetime. They've got no desire to see what's beyond before they were born or after they've passed. I had one student the other day, she just simply refused to answer the question. A Chinese lady. She just simply refused, a very stoic response, a very pragmatic response, I guess, a form of pragmatism. There's no point thinking about it because it's not going to happen. It's just imagination. It's just silliness. What's the point of thinking about it? She refused to answer. So that was a funny one. But it's just interesting how there's a bit of a different mindset. And I've always said, Westerners, we are too stuck in the past or too stuck in the future. It seems as though people from Asian countries, East Asian countries, Southeast Asia, Middle East, they are much more focused on the present and around the present. Even when they go into the future 10 or 15, 20 years, the only reason for going into the future that far is to come back to the present and know the decisions they're making now are the right decisions. You can look at that a few different ways too. I can see that as potentially a lack of, perhaps not confidence, but a dealing with uncertainty or with the unknown. There are pros and cons. There are trade-offs to both of these perspectives. The Western perspective that likes to move way back into the past or way back into the future, it's very imaginative. It's pie in the sky kind of dreaming. And there is a value to that. But there is also a weakness too. There's a trade-off to thinking like that. But I also respect the perspective of not worrying about too much beyond the life that you have. Because that's the only thing that you can have an influence on. It's the only thing that in reality really matters. Of course, our children and what happens to them is important too. But what we do in this life, in this here and now, is going to influence that positively or negatively. So just something I've noticed, and the difference between the two cultures and the different ways, more than two cultures, but the different ways we think, the different ways we see the world. And there are pros and cons to that. There's a series of trade-offs. Ideally, if we can come together and work together with both of those perspectives and perhaps rub off on each other some of those qualities and open our eyes to a different perspective, different way of thinking, that'd be great in a perfect world, the here and now. So anyway, if this is something that sounds a little bit interesting, I put to you to ask your friends, your family, ask them if they had a ticket, if they had a magic ticket, a return trip, 4 hours, just an afternoon break, to go into the future or the past. They can't touch anything, they can't see, they can see things, no one can see them. They can't communicate, they can't change anything. That's it, you're just an observer. Where would they like to go? The future, the past, and the most important question, how far in the future and the past they would like to go. One trip, a return trip. That's it.